It began with whispers in the dark. At first, they were easy to ignore. Strange phone calls in the middle of the night, a breath, a pause, and then silence. For the women of the quiet town of Millfield, it seemed like a prank. A local troublemaker, a bored teenager, maybe even a glitch in the line. But there was nothing funny about the voice that spoke their names. Slowly, deliberately, before hanging up. One by one, the calls spread, each woman receiving them at the same time, around midnight. No words, just breathing, sometimes a low laugh, sometimes nothing at all. At first, the police said not to worry. Probably some kid messing around, they told them. But then, Emily Harris vanished. Emily was 27, kind, outgoing, the kind of person everyone in town seemed to know. She lived alone, in a small blue house at the end of Willow Lane. A week before she disappeared, she had gone to the police, shaken and frightened, saying she'd been getting the calls every night for 3 days straight. She said the voice knew her name. He whispered it, "Emily," and then laughed softly before hanging up. The last time she heard it, she swore she could hear footsteps, faint, echoing, as if someone was walking just outside her window. 2 nights later, she was gone. Her front door was unlocked, her phone on the floor, still connected to a call that had never ended. The last sound on the recording was a man's slow breathing. The whole town went silent. For the first time, people locked their doors, pulled their curtains tight, and refused to answer the phone after dark. Detectives worked day and night. They traced every call Emily had received, but the line bounced between multiple locations, each one leading nowhere. Whoever was behind it knew what he was doing. Weeks turned into months. Fear began to settle over Millfield like fog. Then one night it happened again. Another woman, terrified, received the same midnight call. But this time she was ready. She had a recorder running. The call began the same way. Static, then breathing, then the whisper of her name. But when investigators played back the tape, they noticed something almost invisible. Faint sounds in the background. A dog barking, ticking clock, and just barely, a television playing a late-night news program. They traced the sound of that news broadcast. It was airing only in one neighborhood. The police canvassed every home on that street. And then a pattern emerged. Every single woman who had reported the calls lived within 3 blocks of one man. A quiet, polite, well-liked neighbor named George Milton. He worked at a local repair shop, volunteered at community events, and always greeted people with a smile. No one suspected him, until detectives got a warrant. When they entered his home, the air inside was cold and musty. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Clean kitchen, tidy living room. But in the basement everything changed. There were shelves. Dozens of them. Each shelf held cassette tapes labeled with women's names. Emily's among them. When investigators pressed play, the tapes filled the room with the sound of women breathing, laughing, talking on the phone, unaware they were being recorded. Hours of it. Hundreds of hours. And then the final tape. Emily's last call. Her voice trembling, saying, "Who is this? What do you want from me?" Then silence. Then a man's voice, distorted but clear enough to make every detective in the room freeze. He whispered, "I'm closer than you think." George Milton, the polite neighbor, the helpful handyman, had been stalking women in the town for years. He had tapped phone lines, used stolen equipment to mask his voice, and recorded every call. When confronted, he didn't deny it. He only smiled and said, "They always answered." He was charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, harassment, and murder. Investigators never recovered Emily's body, but the evidence was enough to lock him away for life. Still, Millfield was never the same again. People stopped answering calls after midnight. Some disconnected their landlines entirely. And even years later, those who lived through that time still shiver when the phone rings in the dark. Because deep down, a part of them still wonders, Was George Milton really acting alone? Or is there someone else out there still calling? Still waiting for someone to pick up?